The theme of this event is STA, which is Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance, lending a helping hand to the less privileged. So we are going to raise funds, or we have started raising funds since working up to the event this weekend. We have a plethora of projects that we want to do. And this weekend particularly is really dear to our hearts because it's the 60th anniversary of our alma mater, Sakerettes Baptist College. And it is also the 5th anniversary of Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance. We love to mix and mingle with our sisters and then come up with ideas. We're also going to have our General Assembly meeting where we focus on the next 5 years, what we plan to do. I want to use this opportunity to thank the prior administration for setting the platform on which we are now, and my whole entire Star Sisters. Everybody has put their hands on deck, and we have worked so hard to come to this weekend. But all the projects that we've achieved over the years, we could not have done that without the support of our donors, our patrons, our sponsors. We owe them everything that we do because some of those projects are really costly, and without their kind support, which they do like every year, even when we are not having a Constellation like we're having this weekend, they are always donating. So we take this opportunity to thank them immensely. We also want to thank our board members who have been trying over the years to keep us on track so that we don't derail from the goal of the organization.
I'm class of 85, so we went into 80 and we graduated in 85. So myself and again my friend who is of late, Paulette Donji, our mothers went to SECA, graduated, had us, and then we also went to SECA. So that's why we're second generation Sakerettes. We saw the need for Sakerettes to extend their hands globally, not only within Cameroon, not only within SECA, but to extend worldwide to other children, to other women around the globe. So it was definitely a collaborative effort, and the best way we saw fit that we could do that was through forming a sorority, so that the name Sakerettes Baptist College and Sakerettes could extend their hands around the world. For 4 years, I was the project chair for the sorority. And what that is I oversaw the projects, or I was in charge of coming up and sharing the projects with the ladies, and we collaboratively discussed on the projects, agreed on which project to carry on every year, researched the projects, and actually looked for ways that we could accomplish those projects. And as an executive, I was the financial secretary for 2 years, but right now I'm just a member. It had its challenges, and the reason with every organization, right? You have different views, you have different ideas, you have different opinions. The challenge part of it was trying to juggle all of that and making everybody feel heard and feel that they are actually compensating. So it's not my project or your project or her project, it is a group effort. So I got everybody's idea, and whenever we had a meeting like this, which was every 2 years, we sat down and we had a discussion. Okay, you brought this suggestion. Could you explain more about this suggestion? How does everybody feel? So we had an open discussions and then an agreement. Okay, for this year, this is what we can do. Your project might not be address this year, but would look at it for the next year. And then every time we had a meeting, we also did 5-year project plan. So it might not be this year, we'll slot it on for next year. It might not be next year, we'll slot it on for the next year. So we had a 5-year plan. And then we also left opportunities for situations that arose in the middle of the year. Perfect example, pandemic. We never knew we were going to have a pandemic. We had our projects planned out for what we're going to do, and then the pandemic hit. So we had to address the pandemic. And the pandemic actually has been our focus for the past, two years now since the pandemic. We've really concentrated on pandemic projects. Mind you, we're not putting the other projects aside. We're still doing it, but the pandemic, there is a great need to complete those projects. And I'm so glad that we came together as a group of strong women with opinions, credible opinions, and we completed those projects. So it was a great honor to be in that position and leading the way towards making Sakerettes the project-oriented sorority that we set out to be. It is a lot of work as a project manager per se, but to be honest, it wasn't really squarely on my shoulders because everybody, like the previous interviews had said, it's truly a collaborative effort. So yes, you are leading the project and you're making sure that the project is completed, but I can't be everywhere. You know, we did projects in Cameroon, we did projects in 5 different cities in Cameroon, we did projects in South Africa, we did projects in Cape Verde, we did projects, I mean, just name it, I can't be there. You know, I have a life, I have my family, I have, you know, everybody has a job, so we can't be there. So you rely on other people. And it was easy because we have WhatsApp, so easy to contact people, phone calls, emails, you know, and if I feel a little bit choked up, I have my sisters here. I call the president. She would jump on it like in a minute. Okay, I'll take care of that and make those calls. Or I call the secretary, she would jump on it and make those calls. So in a way, it wasn't so much, oh, you are the project chair, you're supposed to handle everything. And the good thing about the sorority is everybody comes back. The feedback, it's so great when you tell somebody, could you help with this project? And they go for it and then they bring you feedback. Okay, this is where we are, this is what we need to do. And it just keeps moving forward. So it really wasn't too much of a burden like we have in the corporate world or in the government. But it was good. It was good.
It's a pleasure for me to be part of this amazing journey. You know, 5 years ago, I was at the Constellation. Yep. When this starts, when they first converged, it was in Dallas. Yep. Yeah. And they came together and created the alliance and took a pledge that they were going to uplift the girl child, the women, all over the world, to call themselves the Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance. They are Sakerettes first. Sakerettes. Because today also marks 60 years when those amazing missionaries first came and established this institution that has brought these amazing women who have now decided, because of their success, because most of these women, all of them, I know most of them personally. They are a success story in their own rights, personally and professionally. Most of them have empty nest, what we call empty nest. Their children are gone. They have graduated from Ivy League schools, Harvard, West Point. They are lawyers, pharmacists, and doctors, their children. And now they turn around and they say, okay, we are going to extend our wings. We are not only going to concentrate on where we came from. We're going to look at the world globally. And hence the Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance. That is what Sakerettes did for them. And they are doing too well. So tonight, we're going to celebrate the stars and the Sakerettes. Because today marks 60 years that decision started. But I want to also acknowledge a few dignitaries in the house. Tonight we have some Houston city officials. So you're welcome. I want to welcome all of you this evening. I know we have Piper Midland. She ran for Houston City Council, did not win, but trust me, next time, you're going to get it, Piper. You're going to get it. Just because you came here tonight. We also have Danielle Bees. Danielle Bees is a candidate best. That's Danielle. She's a candidate for House District number 147. Guys, she's here tonight. She needs our support. She's here to support us. She's also going to support her. So please, let's follow her campaign and give her all the support that she needs. We also have representative of your own member of Congress, Ms. Sheila Jackson Lee. We have Mr. Garrett Hussein. He's here in the house with us. And of course, we have an artist in the house. There's a Cameroonian artist, one of our favorite superstars. He's upstairs, he's waiting to be called. And there's a lot of ambience. We have one of the best. My own brother from the same village, DJ Skipper. You all know him, you know what he does. So, we're going to have fun. We're going to raise some funds so that the stars can continue to do what they're here to do. So I hope Mr. Garrett has our representative Sheila Jackson on the phone. If he does, give me a thumbs up. We'll put her on speaker. She's going to declare a proclamation here, and you all listen to her voice.
I'm delighted to have the opportunity to give greetings at this very, very special occasion. I was so happy to be able to join the Sakerettes this morning at the Memorial West Park and have a beautiful ceremony and beautiful expression of the importance of the Sakerettes Baptist College. Congratulations to the Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance for the 60th anniversary of the Sakerettes Baptist College and all of the wonderful graduates who have served around the world. It is a time now when people of such great understanding can spread what they have learned to unify us. Thank you for what you do for the United States of America in our most challenging times, protecting democracy and providing for the unity of all of us as diverse communities in this nation. Congratulations to the women, Madam President, and all of your officers. So grateful to be able to have the opportunity of presenting an acknowledgement. Delighted to know that Danielle Best is there, who was giving you and respecting you as well. Congratulations to her for the work that she does. So it is my privilege to present to you a congressional resolution that reads in part that on behalf of the constituents of the 18th Congressional District, I take great pride in recognizing the Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance on this special occasion of the 60th anniversary. We are delighted in your commitment to the community and what you do in the reflection of this great college that has helped so many young women around the world. It is my greatest honor again to be able to acknowledge the service that you've given and to ensure that this day, January 29, 2022, is the Sakerettes Transglobal Day in the 18th Congressional District. As the resolution will read, your efforts are most deserving of the admiration, respect, and commendation of the United States Congress of the United States of America, and that is Sheila Jackson Lee, Member of Congress, January the 29th, 2022. God bless you all. God bless the United States. God bless the unity that we give through the outstanding work of this great college and all of the graduates. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Just so you know, the STA, the Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance, is a Texas-based sorority. It's a sisterhood that was born out of the Sakerettes. These women went to Sakerettes Baptist College. It's a group, it's a sorority. All right? So now, we would love to hear from the president. You just saw her very beautiful, elegant lady.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Once more, I'm going to apologize for starting late. And I just hope that we're going to have fun from here on moving on. I'm going to read the little speech that I made, but before I do that, this morning we had Congresswoman Sheila Jackson visit us at the park. It was very inspiring, very moving. She's a mother. From the way she talked to us, she advised us. And from the cue that I took from her, we tonight need to remember our sisters who have gone before us. She expressly asked us to do that because we have some sisters who planted the cornerstone of Sakerettes Baptist College who are not here today. So on that note, if we could do a 1 minute of silence, and then I can read my speech. If you can stand, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all my STA sorors, I would like to welcome you to our fundraising gala this evening, also meant to celebrate Sakerettes Baptist College 60th and Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance's 5th anniversary. Let me start by wishing each and every one of you a happy and prosperous new year, especially great health as we navigate our way through this pandemic. My message today is one that is full of hope for good health. The past 2 years have been very challenging because of COVID-19, and I have had them, I want to thank my predecessor, Madam Roselyn Ngaje, and the team for setting up a solid foundation on which STA will continue to chart its way forward. And also the current STA administration for their relentless continued dedication to the service of humanity, despite the challenges mentioned above. I appreciate our board members who continuously keep us on our toes, making sure that we do not derail from our mission. I equally want to thank our patrons and sponsors for their continued support towards the execution of STA's multiple projects, big and small. We salute you and we thank you. A special shout out goes to the Sakerettes of Houston and the Sakerettes of Dallas. Our sisters for standing tall with STA over the years, we appreciate you. In as much as we want to hold our regular biannual Constellations, which was scheduled April of 2020, the challenges of COVID-19 did not permit us to gather. Notwithstanding, we still found ways and means of organizing virtual fundraisers as we sold raffle tickets and donated in 2020 and 2021. We raffled our delicious dishes from Cameroon, which enabled us to continue touching lives and putting smiles on the faces of women and young girls. As you would see from the attached STA 5-year project report card, STA has not relented in their mission to help humanity globally as the need arises. From PPEs in 2020 to oxygen concentrators and sensitization in 2021 in the US, Canada, and Cameroon. STA is gingerly but firmly planting its footsteps in the annals of humanitarian work. All of this would not have been possible without the continuous and largesse of our patrons and sponsors. We remain forever indebted to you. You have always come through for us in relation to our projects. So here we are again at the beginning of 2022, calling on you once more to dig deep in your pockets, to generously support us as we continue the work that we are doing to help the less privileged, such as the Fallen Sisters kids that we send back to school. We come from an all-girls school, and if one of us was the total breadwinner for the kids, and therefore we try to help those kids. That's one of our paramount and prime projects. It takes hard work, dedication, and zeal to execute these projects, whether big or small. Today, even as we celebrate 60 years of Seka Baptist College, the Harvard of Cameroon, which was born on January 29, 1962, we are also very proud to tell you that our STA, Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance, also turned 5 years old January 1st, 2022. We are waxing strong with multiple projects completed and ongoing. Welcome once more to the city of Houston, and let us celebrate safely, raise as much funds as we can so that we can meet the next time and we'll present you with the results of your donations. Thank you so much for being here this evening, and let the party begin.
Cameroon,
Sakerettes, my UK. My Sakerettes, my South Africa. And Alanis, your guest speaker for tonight is Dr. Prince. You are guest speaker for tonight.
Okay, so I'm actually not a very good public speaker either. On any given day, if you put me in a room with highly educated, accomplished individuals like yourself, I'm the one person who generally will stand feeling intimidated. I usually shrink, and I convince myself somehow that I don't belong in the club. The imposter syndrome is a little bit strong with me. So I would like to thank the makers of Profanolaw, because without them, I would not be standing here. So thank you, God, and thank you, Profanolaw. So, I had a chance encounter several years ago. I went and attended a luncheon for medical missions. A friend of mine who's a nurse that I had taken to Malawi with me, she came on a medical mission trip to Malawi. So she was going to introduce me to the people at her hospital, Memorial Hermann, to show them who the person that she went to Malawi with, because they sponsored her trip there. I was asked to speak for about 5 minutes on our work in Malawi at a round table with people that were doing similar things. I was in awe of what so many people had been able to accomplish in the countries that they were serving. And very soon, similar to what I usually do, I started to feel like these organizations were much bigger than I was. And I started to wonder why I was even there. Nevertheless, I gave a 5-minute synopsis of who we were as an organization, and spent the rest of the meeting pretty much taking notes from people that I thought had accomplished so much more than what I had. At the end of the meeting, I saw a guy who looked much like Joel Osteen, except it was his brother, Dr. Paul Osteen, who's a cardiovascular surgeon. He started walking towards my direction, and of course, I assumed he must be trying to see someone else. I mean, why is he gonna wanna talk to me? I was a nobody at the meeting. To my surprise, he walked right up to me and Morgan, and he introduced himself. And then very quickly, he asked me to attend the Mobilizing Medical Missions Conference at Lakewood Church. And then he gave me a brochure to be able to set up a booth about my organization there. And he quickly also let me know that one day I'm going to have you standing on that stage talking about your organization. And 2 years later, I was standing at a stage talking about the organization at Lakewood Church. It is really moments like that and moments like this one tonight that I start to realize that God is always reminding me that who I am is not defined by me. It's not defined by the people around me or the circumstances around me, but by God himself. It's because of God that a young girl who grew up in a small village in Tonje, Malawi, with no promises of bright future, found herself in the United States of America, living her dream as a gynecological oncologist. And now I'm standing here in front of you today, and I'm truly honored and I'm truly humbled by his grace. My coolest dreams, even when I was a kid, were really not this cool. I was born in Malawi, and I was the oldest of 8 children. If you're wondering where Malawi is, for those of you who've been in America long enough to forget your geography, I've realized over the last few years that usually when people ask me where Malawi is, I usually tell them that's where Madonna adopted her African children. Somehow the geographical location of Malawi is suddenly very clear to people when I say that. So thank you, Madonna, for putting us on the map. I spent my childhood in a very small village called Tonje. Like most Malawian villages, Tonje is plagued with poverty, disease, lack of access to basic needs of life. I received most of my primary school education under a tree. The most accessible transportation out of Tonje were my feet, and on a really good day, maybe I would get a donkey or an ox cart or a bicycle taxi. I was all grown up by the time I was 10 years old, and I had to assume some adult roles. This was imperative for my mother because she wanted to make sure that I was ready to care for my dad and siblings in the event of an early death. Because while the death of a mother in childbirth is unwelcome, it was an expected outcome for most women in their childbearing years. This reality is very real for many young girls in Malawi. Meet Timothy and Mary. 5 years ago, 13-year-old Mary walked a long way from her village with her brother Timothy to an HIV clinic where her mother used to receive treatment. She came to return the leftover HIV medications because her mother had passed away from the complications of her disease. She was left to care for her brother Timothy, and Timothy was found to have malaria and had very severe anemia that required blood transfusion on this visit. Mary had become Timothy's mother at 13. She did all the bedside care. She made sure her brother ate. She would even make sure he ate before she did, even if it meant she went without food. She literally nursed her brother back to health. Some of the sharp medical personnel at the HIV clinic followed up after Timothy was discharged and realized that the children were actually on their own. Mary was often beaten, and very quickly the smile you see on her face was gone. She had health problems of her own, and in despair, she actually stopped taking her medications, hoping that her disease would progress and that she would die and that would end her suffering. Through some contacts that we had with some missionaries that worked at the HIV clinic, Mary and Timothy are now with us at our facility. They're thriving and they're doing very well. In Tonje, clean water was a luxury that we actually didn't have. We shared our drinking water sources with cows, goats, and dogs. When the rains failed, we dug in the sand until we reached some water and then waited hours just to fill one bucket. I still get overwhelmed today when I take my children to the beach, who at the same age as I was, I see them now digging in the sand to find water just for the fun of doing it. Hunger was the pain that was just part of living. With droughts, our crops would fail and food would become scarce. I remember trucks coming to our village in one of our worst droughts, filled with bags of corn. They were red, white, and blue colors because the corn was coming from the United States. We would stand in very long lines, desperate, with other families and children, hoping we would make it to the front of the line before everything ran out. I remember often the corn would run out, and I would see mothers with babies strapped on their backs. They would be flocking to the front of the line, sobbing and begging for any small amount of corn, just enough to feed their babies for the night. These were moments when I would find myself wondering if God had actually forgotten that there were still people that were living in Tonje, including myself and my family. My dad was an educated man. He was a clinical officer. He also attended seminary to be a pastor. He provided our village with medical care during the week and spiritual care on the weekends. Most educated people I knew would live in the city where things were more accessible. I never understood my father's reasons for choosing the road less traveled. He would remind me often that God wanted us in Tonje, that God had a plan for us there, and he would quote Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. You can guess this was worth a huge eye roll for me. I rewarded my father's sentiment of God has a plan for me by letting him know that I would turn down every marriage proposal from a boy that would tell me he wanted to be a pastor. At age 14, I was the first student in over a decade from Tonje Primary School to be selected from 8th grade with a full scholarship to a prestigious boarding school in the city of Blantyre in Malawi. I was the pride of my village and my parents. I packed my small cardboard suitcase with 3 outfits, my school uniform, and my very first pair of red leather pumps, which my father had bought after selling some bags of beans in the local village. When I reached Blantyre Secondary School, I soon realized I didn't belong. My village life experiences were unlike most of the kids that were there. They had luxuries that I didn't have. They were dropped off at school in cars, and I rode the bus, and I walked into the school campus with my little suitcase from the bus stop. It was hard to find my place there, and I felt alone, but I also knew that this school And my dream to be a doctor was the only thing I had in my hands to change the course of my future. I decided to start looking for my dad's God to see what he could do for me. You can guess what verse came to my mind. I roll. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. But this time, though, it carried much weight for me that it never did before. I hung on to this verse and it literally became my anthem through my high school years. I think this is why the Bible also tells us that we should train up a child in the way that they should go, because when he's old, he will not depart from it. In 1994, Donna Ivy, an ER doctor from a small town in Poolville, Texas, came to Malawi and worked with my family while she was doing medical missions. She saw firsthand the lack of resources of well-trained medical personnel because the doctor-patient ratio in Malawi was around 1 to 50,000. Donna realized that she couldn't fix all the problems that she saw in just a 2-week trip in Malawi. She realized what she had in her hand was money and a country where dreams can come true even for little village girls. She knew she could help at least one girl with her dream. On July 4th, 1994, I landed at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport with a full scholarship from Donna Ivy to attend college in the United States. It was an out-of-body experience for me. I'd actually never seen so many white people, so many buildings, massive highways, and my 16-year-old friends had cars. I mean, this was literally the land of milk and honey to me. There were these huge stores called Walmart that had pretty much everything I could think of and everything I never could think of. There were entire stores dedicated to pets. I remember attending a Sunday school class with Donna Ivy, where grown women in the Sunday school class were learning how to lose weight by being taught the symptoms of hunger. And I sat there listening to them share their stories about the first time they had felt hungry. Imagine my shock hearing them describe that when I had felt hungry my entire life. After my first year of college, I went back to Malawi for a visit. As the plane was approaching the international airport, I remember looking out the window and noticing how vastly empty and underdeveloped it seemed in contrast to when I was landing at DFW. There were scattered dirt roads, small huts, large open fields. My life had changed so drastically, and I'd realized my home was somewhat much the same. I went to watch my father work in a clinic, and I became acutely aware of how little he had to treat people who were so severely ill. I saw a young, otherwise healthy girl who had a bout of diarrhea over a few days, and her mother had walked a long way to the clinic. By the time they made it to the clinic on foot, the little girl was so severely dehydrated. The clinic had no IV fluids, and she was too sick to drink. I remember feeling desperate for her as I watched her take her last breath. She died in the clinic just from simple dehydration. I remember watching my dad then pick up the baby and strap her to her mother's back. And I realized that her mother would have to start the long walk back home with her dead baby on her back. I remember going to the district hospital and saw women laying on trash bags and on cement floors having their babies because the hospital was overcrowded, understaffed, and under-resourced. I saw a woman hemorrhaging while she was holding a newborn baby, and the hospital had no blood to give her because the blood bank was empty. As I saw this, I realized this was my life. That little girl that went home dead on her mother's back could have as well been me. And I realized the women laying on the floor dying while giving birth was the future that was actually once mine. Somehow God had found me in the midst of all of this. He had chosen me and he had spared me. I was now in the United States of America, in a land where I was pursuing my dream to be a doctor. This was the birth of an awareness of the plight of my country and the birth of a new dream for me to start searching for what my purpose was in this life. I started to ask God why. I asked him, what can I do? I was a stranger in America with minimal connections and minimal resources. I was still just a village girl with empty hands. What did he want me to do? Exodus 3:11, Moses saw a burning bush and he asked God, who am I? And in chapter 4:2, God says to Moses, what's in your hands? And he says, I just have a staff, and the rest is history. All God needed was for Moses to say yes, and God would use whatever Moses had, no matter how small, to fulfill his purpose. I finally decided to just say yes. Here I am, send me. While I was in medical school, a group of friends from Christian Medical and Dental Society collected some household items and we set up a garage sale. We sold about $1,500 worth of items and we found a matching donor at the same garage sale. The $3,000 bought land in Salima, Malawi as a way to solidify that I was willing to go where God wanted me to go. I had no means, I had no money, but I just believed that one day the land would be used. 7 years later, that land became what is now Portaria Safe Haven, which you can see in the picture, Christian Mission Organization. It's a home-style orphanage with 126 children, 12 mamas who love and care for them. We have a school with over 300 children from the village and from the orphanage who wouldn't have access to education. We have a medical clinic that sees 200 patients a day and a birthing center that is now discharging many healthy babies and healthy mamas. We have an agricultural program that's providing food for the children. We have sent over 50 children to higher education. Some of them have actually now returned. 2 of our nurses are actually kids from the orphanage. We're soon planning to start construction for a high school and technical training to provide additional higher education and opportunities. I once heard someone say, developing countries are made up of entrepreneurs and visionaries who, with social justice and equity, have the capacity to be part of the economic development of their countries. Meet Joseph on the left. His dream is to be a sound engineer. And he actually owns he wants to own a real sound system one day. For now, however, he created a stereo sound system from electric wires from trash. He has an old plastic water tank, an old radio speaker, and an old radio that he repaired. And he placed his own wire antenna. And he powers this with a small solar panel. And it actually works. Genius. It's pretty loud. I don't think his teachers appreciate it during recess. To the right are a group of young men who created a pool table from sticks and mud. And this is what I see in all the children in Portaria, and really in many children in African villages. One of the richest and unrecognized resources that Africa has is actually her people and her children. The answers to the problems that plague Africa lies in the minds of her people and of these children. The only thing that stands in their way is really just lack of opportunity, which is what the definition of poverty is. As the project grew at Portaria and financial demands increased, I found myself overwhelmed by the amount of responsibility this work takes. I have been grown since I was 10. I was asking myself, why can't I just be normal and less responsible? I looked back at God and I asked how he wanted me to do this. I reminded God that I had no roots in the United States and that I'm not Oprah who can just call a few of her favorite friends to chip in a few $1 million. The fear of failure became real as the burdens of running Portaria increased. It became a constant prayer to find means. Through an amazing friendship, which was only given by God, I met Mike Nerolio, who was raising money to repair wells in Malawi by climbing Kilimanjaro. What are the chances that I would end up in the woodlands and meet a guy who just happens to climb the Kilimanjaro to raise money for wells in Malawi? Mike used his vision to support his ministry to empower me to create visibility as well as a fundraising opportunity for Bull Terrier. In 2016, along with Mike, my friend, and his Clean Water Climb group, I used the very feet that had walked and ran miles in Tonje and the stamina that had helped me carry 40 pounds of water tanks on my head to climb and summit Kilimanjaro for Malawi. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done, but one of the most physical expressions I could give God that I was willing for him to use me in whatever capacity and to use whatever I had in my hands and however he saw fit for the benefit of my country and my people. This platform has been so transforming and has given me visibility I would have never had and connections with people that I would have never met or known. I have repeated it 4 times, and I'm going back for the 5th time this summer, COVID permitting. I'm grateful for the feet and hands and stamina to do this, and for my friend Mike, who decided to use what he had in his hands to help me make my own waves. When I look at my life, it is filled with a series of people who used what was in their hands to fulfill God's purpose in my life. My parents' selfless love of service for others, Donna's financial resources and access to higher education, and Mike's success with his own ministry was used to empower mine. Life takes us through different seasons, but God will use each one of us when we think we have nothing that we can give. David was a shepherd boy who had a sling that God used to take down a giant. Ruth was a hard-working widow who had lost everything and was gleaning for wheat in a field for food, and later became the owner of that field through her marriage to Boaz. We serve a living God and a God of unmerited favor who turns things around for his glory. Nothing is impossible with God. You're all here tonight because God already knows what you have in your hands. We have the power in this room to change the very future of Africa and change the future of the world and the future of the children of Africa. The organization here has actually been one where our organization has been a recipient of financial assistance that has helped us actually buy incubators for the babies that you just saw. It will take each one of us to decide today what our purpose is in life and what do we have in our hands that can be used. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. I know I have found myself and my purpose through my work as a gynecological oncologist and the women I see every day, and through my work in Malawi. Let's all choose today to really become part of the change that we want to see in the world. Thank you again for having me here tonight.
When I started having kids of my own, I used to tell them, or when I go to their schools, I tell their teachers, it takes a special person to be a teacher, just like it takes a special person to be a nurse. And those 2 things, I swear, I will never be able to do any of them. So my hats off to the teachers, my hats off to nurses, my hats off to everybody in the medical field and everybody who helps to maintain life and to bring about life. So thank you. At this point, STAR would like to recognize some teachers that have made a difference in the lives of the girls who went through Seka Baptist College. We had a few who were to be here, but for one reason or another, COVID being, of course, the main culprit. Some could not make it because of travel bans or, again, all tied into COVID. I have a few certificates to give out, and they all read as follows. Certificate of Appreciation. Sakerettes Transglobal Alliance recognizes the teacher's name for his or her service and dedication to Sake Baptist College. And it's signed by our president, Ms. Christina Kidi Tuba, and today's date, January 29, 2022. And all of them look like this.
Hello from Vancouver, Canada. Greetings to all of you in Houston who are there for the 2022 Sakerette Transglobal Association 60-year celebration. Special greetings to all the Sakerettes, and very, very special greetings to anyone who was a student of mine in the 1970 through 1972 school terms. Wow, that's 60 years ago. Many of you were not even born at that time. Makes me feel so old.
Okay, not to draw this a little too far, I'm just gonna read the names of those who will be receiving the certificate. The first is gonna be Miss Wilma Binder. She is in South Dakota, North Dakota. We're gonna mail this to her. And Mrs. Yvonne Ewanga, she is in Minnesota. Miss Evelyn Array Abuno, Miss Gwendolyn Kwanyo, Dr. Ebenezer Taiwi, who happens to be the son to one of our principals of Sake Baptist College. So the son also came back and taught in Sake Baptist College. Siseko Barakel Array, he's in Dallas. Mrs. Ama Moody, Mr. Gerald Jumashua, Mr. Larry Schaffler, Miss Belinda Ekiko Sabatini, and a few last ones. We're honored to have two teachers that we are appreciating here tonight. So I'd like to call Mrs. Emma Indley in the house. Please give her a round of applause. All the way from California. Book will be mailed to you. Last but not the least, it is my honor to present this last recognition that I have to a special lady, and I'll tell you why she's special. She is a Sakerette. She went to Seka. She came back and taught in Seka. Her children are Sakerettes in their own right. She is, or she was, the first president of STA. And this is no other one but Ms. Rosalind Gajan.
Mr. Jide Obama.